guys, either welcome back or welcome to my channel. Thank you for clicking on this video. This video is going to be focusing on specifically symptoms that people experience with IIH or idiopathic intracranial hypertension. Now, if you watch my facts video or even the intro to this channel, IIH is the buildup of cerebrospinal fluid without an undetectable cause. So this actually produces some fairly unique symptoms. The reason why you've probably never heard of this condition is because it's extremely rare. So there's a difference in the statistics between whether you're at a normal weight and whether you're overweight or even obese. So normal weight individuals, the condition is extremely rare. 1 in 100,000 people is what they tend to see in this condition. And in overweight or obese people, the statistics I've seen range anywhere from about 19 to 21 per 100,000 people. So quite a significant increase if you think about it, but it's still really, really rare. First, and usually most common complaint people usually have, and actually I have had these too, is basically picture the worst headache of your life. So with IIH, generally it's similar to a migraine, but it's 10,000 times worse. I've actually had both, and my IIH headaches are much, much worse than a migraine. So for those of you out there who have had a migraine, times your migraine by several thousand and you'll kind of get an idea of what I mean by this. The second most common symptoms are changes in your vision. Some people can have blurred vision, but for me, I actually have double vision. So this was the first clue basically that something was wrong. And the third most common symptom is a tinnitus, ringing in your ear. But instead of hearing the ringing in your ear, you hear your own heartbeat in your ear. I have only had this happen to me actually a couple of times. So in this second part to the symptoms, I'm actually going to be describing some of the other symptoms that can happen. All of this information that I'm giving you is actually available on the American research website for IIH. I had actually what were almost like Charlie horses in my legs. I remember in May I actually went to the doctor for this because I was supposed to be trying to start my workouts, and I had actually just started getting back onto the treadmill at this point, just trying to get myself walking again because I really hadn't been moving much at this point after being in school, because literally I went from my bed to class, stayed at school to study, came home, ate supper, and went right to bed. It's the only way I could get through my last semester. You can get pain in the arms and legs and back. It really felt like my legs were cramping up, kind of like I hadn't been cooling down properly after I had been walking. The next big one is neck stiffness. This one I have almost constantly right now. This is honestly probably one of the worst symptoms, and this actually interferes with my sleep. It can get so bad I actually end up sleeping most nights falling asleep on an ice pack just because it is very, very sore. It seems to be similar to if you've been looking at your phone too long during the day and you've been looking kind of down and you get kind of an achy feeling in the back of your neck. The neck stiffness, though, is definitely probably one of my main symptoms. So that is debilitating when it gets really, really bad. Although the back pain can be quite annoying too. But it's actually the back pain is right where they did the lumbar puncture. Dizziness, lightheadedness, and balance problems. Yeah, had all three. I actually thought I wasn't eating enough or wasn't getting enough nutrients or something. I basically attributed this to just not taking care of myself. Balance problems, definitely. One thing I've noticed, and actually I work on this when I'm doing my Zumba fitness, is balance. And this is one thing that I can work on constantly, and if I'm having a bad day with my head, there is no helping me. And there are some times when you wake up in the morning and sometimes you're just not feeling well. But I have a no excuses attitude when it comes to my exercise. So no matter how bad I'm feeling, I at least try. There hasn't been a workout that I haven't been able to get through yet. Numbness or tingling in the hands, feet, and face. I didn't start having that issue until I started on my medication that I remember. So that really doesn't apply to me. Nausea or vomiting, yeah, nausea was pretty bad actually. And when the headaches get really bad, it feels like your brain's about to explode at the base of your neck and you feel very nauseous. It is not a great feeling at all. Rhinorrhea, which is spinal fluid leaking from the nose. I haven't noticed this yet that I've been able to confirm. I had one really weird day where it felt like I was getting a sinus infection and I had clear fluid coming out of my nose, but it was only one day. I can't attribute that to this, though I have no idea if that was the case or not. Endocrine problems, actually, yeah, this one was interesting. I was actually tested for diabetes 3 times during my blood work because one of the issues I was having was severe thirst. Everything comes with fatigue at some point. So the first couple weeks that I was actually not feeling well, I just let it play its course because usually anything that I get has been viral. When it was continually getting worse, I decided to go to the doctor. When I was in school, I started out with really severe fatigue. And usually, like, this I expected a little bit, being that I was having to actually run across campus. So my one class was in one spot on campus. Then I had a class that I had to get to right across campus, and it took a full 10 minutes of pretty much running to get there. And then after that class, I had 10 minutes before my next class, again on the opposite side of campus in the sciences building for one of my biochemistry classes. So it was not the ideal schedule. And I knew I was out of shape, but when my legs were starting to hurt at that point, and I noticed an extra fatigue, I just contributed it to that. At that point, it was time to see a doctor. So the fatigue was really my first sign that, okay, something's not right. This needs to be looked at. I just didn't realize it was going to be 8 months later that I would get a diagnosis. Depression, yeah, depression can be an issue with this condition. I am very open about any issues that I have with my mental health. We just had Bell Let's Talk Day in Canada this last week, which is where us Canadians share our stories and try to help end the stigma about talking about mental health and making it a normal thing to do so that people who need help now are not afraid to seek help. So depression is very common. For me, the depression came basically from the fact that I wasn't able to get the same amount of energy from my workouts, being burnt out from having to put in 3 times as much effort just to pass my classes because I felt so bad doing my midterm. So I actually ended up failing one of my midterms pretty bad. Second semester, I could have went to my prof and said, look, I haven't been feeling well. I went to the doctor. I had this UTI. There's still something going on, but I just don't know what. However, being that was in the program that I really wanted to have a solid diagnosis before approaching them. And unfortunately, that never happened because I didn't get my diagnosis until following fall. So that is something that I've had to deal with a little bit myself. But depression is definitely something that can happen when you don't have a solid support system, and unfortunately, not all of us do. Thanks to my parents, my family, and friends, and finding my passion for science again, I have pulled through this quite strongly, but it's been a little bit of a challenge to get through it, and I think it's really important that I'm very open about that, being that it did happen to me too. Memory difficulties. Actually, this is interesting because I haven't really noticed an issue with my long-term memory per se, but remembering if I've taken medication, which is short-term memory, or issues with did I do this thing today, actually have been pretty common, but it's been something that I've noticed kind of after diagnosis, so I'm not really sure if this is a part of the condition or not. At least for me. Thankfully, this doesn't seem to affect my ability to remember the stuff I learned during my degree. So that's promising that I do remember the stuff that I learned for sure. And exercise intolerance too, which is actually unfortunate because, like I said with the statistics, that this is very common in people who are overweight. So the doctors are very persistent on making sure that those of us who need to lose weight. I've been one of them. I actually weighed more at the point of diagnosis with my spinal tap than I ever have in my life. And I actually didn't pick up on this. I really wish I had of, because was part of how I got feeling so down. Being that I took biochemistry and know the effect of healthy weight being important, I really attributed this to being my fault that I let my weight get out of control again. It's probably not just the weight as a contributing factor, but there was other reasons why this could have happened too. So for treatment options for IIH, the most common medication given, and the one I'm actually on, is acetazolamide. There's also topiramate and Lasix that can be used. So all basically diuretics that help try and get the fluid down. If the medication fails, there's surgical options available. So the surgical options available involve either shunting or an optic nerve sheath fenestration. I don't know much about these procedures. Basically, all I know is that the shunt allows a different way for the fluid to be drained out of the brain. Alright, thanks for watching that video on the symptoms. Sorry, it was a little bit longer than what I wanted it to be, but these symptoms are fairly common symptoms, but they're not necessarily experienced commonly between every individual. So if you enjoyed watching this video on symptoms that people normally experience with IIH, then definitely subscribe, like, comment. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!